At the dawn of the internet, before the world knew how to Google something, before social media, there was a sound that defined a generation of web users, the cheerful, exuberant yodel of Yahoo. For years, Yahoo wasn't just a website, it was the homepage of the internet, it was the starting point, the map, the phone book for a wild and undiscovered digital world. Hundreds of millions of people started their day on Yahoo.com, checking their email, reading the news, tracking the stock market. They were not just a company, they were a cultural phenomenon, the undisputed king of a new kingdom. So, how was that king dethroned? How did a company once valued at over $125 billion become a shadow of its former self? This isn't a story of a simple failure. This is the tragedy of a series of catastrophic mistakes, culminating in a single decision, a refusal that will forever be remembered as a trillion-dollar mistake. Our story begins in 1994 in a trailer on the Stanford University campus, where two engineering graduate students, Jerry Yang and David Filo, created a list of their favorite websites. Initially called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web, it quickly grew too large. They realized that in the chaos of the early web, what people needed most was organization. They created a human-curated directory, a library for the internet. They renamed it Yahoo, and it took off like a rocket. In a world before search algorithms, the human touch Yahoo provided was revolutionary. They became a portal, a one-stop shop for everything. They dominated by the late 90s. Their purple logo was everywhere, and they were the center of the digital universe. And then, on a fateful day in 1998, the future knocked on their office door. Two other Stanford grad students, named Larry Page and Sergey Brin, came to see Yahoo's leadership. They brought a secret weapon, a new and vastly superior search technology capable of ranking pages by relevance, not just by category. They called it Google. They offered to sell their entire company and technology to Yahoo for just $1 million. But Yahoo, sitting on top of the world, looked at the offer and refused. They saw themselves as a media company. A content empire. Search was just a feature, not the future. They politely showed the two young men and the opportunity to own the entire digital world out the door. That was the first mistake, but not the last. A few years later, in 2002, with Google now a formidable force, Yahoo realized their error. Their CEO at the time was Terry Semel, a former Hollywood executive from Warner Brothers, who reinforced the belief that Yahoo was an entertainment company. Still, he attempted to buy Google. Negotiations started at $3 billion. Larry and Sergey, now more confident, demanded $5 billion. Semel and the Yahoo board balked. They thought the number was too high. They walked away again. Ironically, for years after, Yahoo had to pay Google to power the search technology on its own website. The king was outsourcing the crown jewel to the very enemy who would dethrone him. That refusal was not an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a deeper disease, a complete corporate identity crisis. While Google was laser-focused on perfecting one thing, search, and monetizing it brilliantly, Yahoo became bloated and lost. They went on a wild shopping spree, spending billions to become a media giant. They bought GeoCities, a primitive blogging platform, for $36 billion, only to later shut it down. They paid $57 billion for Mark Cuban's Broadcastcom, an internet radio company, long before broadband infrastructure could support it. Most of these deals failed spectacularly, burning through billions and diluting the company's focus. They were like a ship without a rudder, drifting between the shores of tech and media, and ultimately excelling at neither. By 2008, the giant was badly wounded, its stock price plummeting as Google completely dominated search. And then, a surprising lifeline appeared in the form of the internet's old enemy, Microsoft. In a desperate bid to compete with Google, Microsoft made a hostile takeover offer of $446 billion to buy Yahoo. It was an incredibly generous price, a 62 premium over the company's market value at the time, this was a golden parachute. But co-founder Jerry Yang, who had returned as CEO, let emotion and pride take over. He felt the offer was an insult, that it significantly undervalued the brand he had built. He fought it aggressively and ultimately rejected the offer. Shareholders were furious. It was the final act of hubris, and it sealed Yahoo's fate. When the global financial crisis hit shortly after, Yahoo's value plummeted. Never to recover, the last chance for a glorious exit was slammed shut. The final years were a series of desperate attempts to recapture lost glory. In 2012, they made a big bet on Marissa Mayer, a star executive from Google itself. She arrived with much fanfare, seen as the savior who could bring Google's culture of innovation to an aging Yahoo. She tried to modernize the company, focusing on mobile and making bold acquisitions, most notably buying Tumblr for $11 billion. But these efforts were like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The culture at Yahoo was too sclerotic to change. The Tumblr acquisition never delivered the expected returns despite her best efforts. The ship was still sinking. The end came in 2016, not with a bang, but with a whimper. The core business of Yahoo, once valued at over $125 billion, was sold to Verizon for just $48 billion, a tiny fraction of what Microsoft had offered. The king was dethroned, and his kingdom was sold for parts. So what really killed Yahoo? It wasn't one single thing, but a death by 1,000 cuts. It was the arrogance that blinded them to the existential threat from Google. It was the lack of focus, an identity crisis that led them to waste billions on failed bets. And it was the poor management, a series of disastrous decisions driven by emotion rather than logic. The legacy of Yahoo is a chilling warning to all giants. It's the story of a pioneer who mapped the digital world, only to get lost in the very territory it discovered. It's a reminder that in the ever-changing world of technology, if you don't know who you are, you will soon become nothing at all. Ironically, for the last decade of its life, Yahoo's massive stake in Alibaba was worth more than its entire core business. They were essentially a holding company for a better investment, a ghost haunting a portfolio. The story of Yahoo is a classic Greek tragedy for the digital age, a hero blessed with every advantage, brought down by its own hubris and fatal flaws. They were the first, they were the biggest, but they were not the last. Their fall is a warning to every giant that dominates today. What are your memories of using Yahoo in its heyday? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this case study valuable, help us decode more giants by hitting that like button. It truly helps the channel. And subscribe to Decoding the Giants for more deep dives into the biggest business stories that shaped our world.